Good morning, children. I am Mamta Sankolli. I am going to teach you history for the class 6th. Right? I am going to start with the first chapter, how and when. Right? Where, how and when. What happened. Right? I am going to take your history first chapter. So as you come to the history topic, we all are having the same question. What happened in the past, what was the things which was going on in the past, right? We all have the enthusiastic, we all have the curiosity that what happened in the past things. So let us come to know what can we know about the past. So what are the past? There are several things we can find out: what people ate, the kinds of clothes they wore, the houses in which they lived. We can find out about the lives of hunters, herders, farmers, rulers, merchants, priests, crafts persons, artists, musicians and scientists. We can also find out about the games children played, the stories they heard, the place they saw, the songs they sang. So we are all enthusiastic, we all want to know in the past what they have done, what the people were eating, what were the clothes they were wearing, how was the life of the hunters, how was the life of the herders, how was the life of the farmers, how was the life of the artist who lived in those days, how was the musicians, scientists, what experiments they were using, what type of instruments they were playing, how did they start music, how they created the music. So all this, how the children were playing, what were the songs they were singing. So these are all the questions which come to our mind when we think of what happened in the past. Where did people live? So in the people have lived along the banks of this river for several 100,000 years. So they were living on the bank of the Narmada river for several thousand years, right? 100,000 years back they were living on the banks of the river, because river is water is the most essential thing to survive. Without water, how can you live? Without air, can you breathe? No. Without water also, you cannot live. Some of the earliest people who lived here were skilled gatherers, that is, people who gathered their food. They knew about this vast wealth of plants in the surrounding forest, collected roots, fruits and other forest produce for their food. What they were doing? Right, they were they were collecting the food from the forest. They were eating the roots. They were collecting the roots from the forest and they were eating it. They were collecting the fruits. They were collecting the other forest produce. For example, some leaves and all they were eating. They were also hunting the animals in the forest and they were eating the flesh of the animals. Some of the areas where women and men first began to grow crops such as wheat and barley about 800 years ago are located here. People also began rearing animals like sheep, goat and cattle and lived in villages. So here you can see the map. Garo hills to the northeast you can see here, and the Vindhyas in the central India. There people started living and they started rearing the animals. About 8,000 years ago they started rearing the animals like sheep, goat, cattle. They lived in villages and they lived some other areas also where they were comfortable. Slowly agriculture got developed. Agriculture started developing slowly. The places where rice was first grown are to the north of the Vindhyas. To the north of the Vindhyas, what we are finding? We are finding the place where what is grown? It is the rice which is grown there, first grown. Right, and are small. About 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished on the banks of these rivers. Later, about 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the banks of the Ganga and its tributaries and along the sea coast. So what happened? On the banks of the Ganga, its tributaries along the sea coast, we saw that 2500 years ago some cities got developed, because on the banks of the river only we can see the cities get developed, because we can use the water for agriculture, we can use the water for consumption, we can use the water for other eating purposes, cooking food, right, irrigation purposes, and washing clothes, washing utensils and all, and taking bath, keeping ourselves hygiene, we need the water. So cities got developed along the banks of the river. In the ancient times, the area along these rivers to the south of the Ganga was known as the Magadha. So south of the Ganga, the place where south of the Ganga is there, it is known as Magadha. Now lying it in the state of Bihar. Now it is lying in the state of Bihar. Where is Magadha now? Now it is at present, it is in the state of Bihar. Kingdoms, its rulers were very powerful and set up a large kingdom. Magadha, you have seen Chandragupta Maurya. Since from Chandragupta Maurya, you have heard the kingdom capital called Magadha. And you have seen it is very big and it is very powerful. So the kings have made a very large kingdom. Kingdoms were set up in other parts of the country as well. In other parts of the country also, kingdoms were set up. Throughout, people travelled from one part of the subcontinent to the another. So people started travelling from one subcontinent to the another subcontinent. The hills and high mountains, including the Himalayas, deserts, rivers and seas, made journeys dangerous at times. So rivers, seas, crossing the seas, doing the journeys was very difficult during those times. It was not easy to travel the distance from one place to another place. Through the ships, they have to travel, and those days the ships were not so modernized as they are now. The speed of the ship was also not so high speed ships, electronic ships. Now whatever the big ships you are having, that type of ships were not there. The ships used to travel very slowly. At that times they have crossed the seas and they have reached the another part of the land. The hills and high mountains, including the Himalayas, deserts, rivers and sea, made journeys dangerous at times but never impossible. Even the journeys were impossible, but people made it possible by their confidence, by their willpower. They travelled through the mountains, they travelled through the seas, they made their journey possible. So men and women moved in search of livelihood so as to escape from natural disasters like floods or droughts. Yes, I told you, people to manage themselves in the harsh conditions, in the harsh weathers, like hot seasons, cold seasons, as well as maintaining themselves safe during the droughts, during the floods. It is very difficult. Now you have aeroplanes are there, helicopters are there, they come, rescue team is there, they come and they rescue you from the dangerous period. But in those times there were no mobiles, there was no information technology, there was no Googles, there were no cameras. How did people escape from the floods, droughts? It was really a challenging thing for them. Sometimes men marched in armies conquering other lands. Yes, sometimes men marched in armies, in the form of 15 to 20 people. They marched, they went along and they conquered the lands and they came back. Besides, merchants travelled with caravans or ships carrying valuable goods from place to place. So merchants were traveling from one place to another place in the caravans in order to sell their valuable goods and services. And religious teachers walked from village to village, town to town, stopping to offer instructions and advice on the way. Yes, religious saints, Gautam Buddha traveled all over the world in the spread of his teachings. In order, he used to stop and he used to give teachings to the people, to the followers all the way, like that. Finally, some people perhaps traveled driven by a spirit of adventure. Some people were moving from one place to another place in the spirit of adventure, wanting to discover new and exciting places. They were interested in discovering new and exciting places, so they were moving from one place to the another place. All these led to discover the sharing of ideas between the people. So this made the people to share their ideas. So ideas they were sharing because they were discovering new things in their journey of the life. Why do people travel nowadays? Look at map 1 once more. Hills, mountains and seas from the natural frontiers of the subcontinent. While it was difficult to cross these frontiers, those who wanted could and did scale the mountains and cross the seas. People from across the frontiers came into the subcontinent and settled here. You can see the people wanted to do the movements. They wanted to move from one place to another place and get settled themselves in a good way, for a good fortune, for having a good job, for having the good food facility, for making their life better. They were traveling from one place to the another place. These movements of people enriched our culture, traditions. People have shared new ways of carving stone, composing music and even cooking food over the several hundred years. These movements, when you travel from one place to another place, when you go to Thailand, you see the different music, you see the different language, you see the different songs which they are singing, you see the different language, you see the different dress which they are wearing. So all these things what you make, you learn from them. And movements, they enrich our culture, they make us more strong, they make us to know differently what are the things which are happening in the world. They make us so strong that we come to know the different things which are happening across the world. So traveling is important thing, discovering. So I tell you, if you watch National Geographic channel, if you watch the Discovery channel, you see that where there are geographers who travel across the world as a passion, not for money or nothing, as a passion. They were traveling from one place to another place. They want to know how it is, what they were eating, what they were doing, how to sustain life in the forest, right? All these things they are doing it as a passion. So in those days also, in the history, in the past also, there were people who were wanted to know the new ways of carving stones, composing the music and even cooking the food over several hundred of years. Names of the land. Two of the words we often use for our country are India and Bharat. Yes, we are using two names for our country. One is the India and another one is the Bharat. The word India comes from the Indus, called Sindhu in Sanskrit. So how this word India came? It is derived from the word Indus, called Sindhu in Sanskrit. Find Iran and Greece. Atlas. The Iranians and the Greeks who came through the northwest about 2500 years ago were familiar with the Indus, called it Hindos or the Indos. So these Greeks who came around 2500 years ago, the Iranians and Greeks who came 2500 years ago, they gave us the name called the Indos or the Hindos. And the land to the east of the river was called the India. And the land where we are living, it is in the east of India and we are calling it east of the river. So we are calling it as India. The name Bharata was used for the group of people who lived in the northwest and who are mentioned in the Rig Veda. The earliest composition in Sanskrit dated to about 3500 years ago. Later it was used for the country. So here what is that? There in the Rig Veda, Bharata means group of people. Later we used it for our country name. But in Rig Veda, the meaning of Bharata is group of people. Finding out about the past. There are several ways of finding out about the past. One is to search for and read books that were written long ago. So there are several ways of finding about the past. One way is to search the books which were written long ago. These are called as the manuscripts because they were written by hand. These manuscripts are written by hand, right? They are written by the hand. So we are going to call them as the manuscripts. These were usually written on the palm leaf. How they are written? They are written on the palm leaf or on the specially prepared bark of a tree. They are making bark, means branches, small branches of the tree, bark of a tree known as the birch, which grows in the Himalayas, which is growing in the Himalayas. That birch, that bark, on that bark they were writing the scripts. They were writing the stories of the kings. They were writing the stories of the queens. Over the years, many manuscripts were eaten by insects and some were destroyed, but many have survived, often preserved in temples and monasteries. So what happened is some insects were eating it and some manuscripts were destroyed, but some have been survived and they are preserved in the temples and monasteries. These books dealt with all kinds of subjects, religious beliefs and practices, the lives of kings, medicines and science. So the books were of all kinds of subjects. One was the religious beliefs and practices, and another was the lives of the kings, medicines, science. Of all these subjects we were having the books in the olden days. Religious beliefs books, we were having practices, kings, about the lives of the kings we were having, medicine, science, all these books we were having in the olden days. Besides, there were epics, poems, plays. Many of these were written in Sanskrit, others were in Prakrit languages used by ordinary people and Tamil. So, some languages were in the old language in the Sanskrit and some other were in the Prakrit language and some were in the Tamil language. We can also study inscriptions. These are writings on relatively hard surfaces such as stone or metal. So you can see here some are written on the stones writings and some are written on the metal surfaces. Sometimes kings got their orders inscribed so that people could see, read and obey them. There are other kinds of inscription as well where men and women, including kings and queens, recorded what they did. For examples, king often kept records of victories in battle. There were inscriptions on the stones. They were writing on the stones. What they were writing? They were writing the victories. How many wars they have fought and how many wars they have won, how many battles they have won. All these things they were writing on the stone. There were many other things that were made and used in the past. Those who study these objects are called archaeologists. Underline it please with the pencil. There were many other things that were made and used in the past. Those who study these objects, they are called as the archaeologists. So whatever the past things which are available, they are studying about it, and that objects, the study of those objects who are studying them, they are called as the archaeologists. They study the remains of buildings made of stone and brick, paintings, sculpture. They also explore and excavate, dig under the surface of the earth to find tools, weapons, pots, pans, ornaments and coins. Some of these objects may be made of stone. others of bone, baked clay or metal objects that are made of hard, imperishable substances usually survive for a long time. They also explore or excavate. They are digging the surface of the earth in order to remove the remains of the building, stones, pots, ornaments, right, coins. They are studying them, and they are studying some objects also which are made by bone, which are made by stone, which are made by baked clay or metal, in order to know that, which because they are made up of hard and imperishable, means you cannot destroy them. Like that, by that substances they were making, so that they were surviving for a long run. They were not surviving for a short period, but they were surviving for a long run. Do you understand? Archaeologists also look for bones of animals, birds and fish to find out what people ate in the past. Yes, this was the big question. What people were eating in the past, how they were surviving, right, how they were living in the past, what was their food to eat. Plant remains survive far more rarely if the seeds of grain or pieces of wood have been burnt. They survive in a charred form. Charred form is in the booty, ash form they are surviving if they have burnt any plants. If they have ate the bones of animals and if they have burnt some plants, then we can see that in the charred form or in the ash form they are surviving still. Historians, that is the scholars who study the past, often use the word source to refer the information found from manuscripts, inscriptions and archaeology. So from where the historians study the history? They study it from the manuscripts, and from there the inscriptions and the archaeology they find the sources. Once sources are found, learning about the past becomes an adventure as we construct it bit by bit. So historians and archaeologists are like detectives who use all these sources like clues to find out our past. So we are all enthusiastic. We want to know what is our past, how it is there. So for archaeologists, it is just like they are acting like detectives, like CBI people. They are always in the in the way of searching the evidences, in the way of searching the clues. How was they? What were they eating? Can we get any clue of it? What they were wearing? Can we get any clue of it? Can we get a stone which could tell that how were the habitat of the people in those days? Like that, they are searching. They are working just like the detectives or the CIDs. The one past or many. Did you notice the title of this book is Our Past? We have used the word past in plural to draw attention to the fact that the past was different from different groups of people. For example, the lives of herders or farmers were different from those of kings and queens. The lives of merchants were different from those of craft persons, and so on. Here you can see in the past the life was not same. It was different from one person to the another. Farmer's life was different. Craftsman person's life was different. Artisan life was different. Right? What you can say, the tailor life was different. The merchant's life was different. The king's life was totally different. They were different. They were leading a different lifestyles in those days. Right? Let us see here in our country, for example, today most people living in the Andaman Islands get their own food by fishing, hunting and collecting forest produce. Yes, in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they are surviving on their own. They are not doing job. They are collecting the food from the forest. They are hunting the animals and they are eating the flesh of the animals. They are consuming, they are creating their own food and they are consuming the same food. By contrast, most people living in cities depend on others for the supplies of food. Differences such as these existed in the past as well. Yes, here you can see that here people they are collecting in the cities. We are not cultivating, we are not growing our food, but we are depending on the suppliers to supply our food. If they don't supply, we don't get the food to eat. When they supply the food, we are eating it. We are depending on the suppliers, we are depending totally on the farmers to produce the food for us. Besides, there is another kind of difference. We know a great deal about kings and the battles they fought because they kept records of their victories. Generally, ordinary people such as hunters, fishing folk, gatherers, farmers, or the herders did not keep records of what they did, while archaeology helps us to find out about their lives. There is much that remains unknown. So here, for the archaeologists, it became a difficult task for them. There is the record of the only the kings and the queens, and the big people's record is there, but how the hunters led their life, how the fishing people, how they led their life, gatherers, how they led their life, farmers, how they led their life, herders, how they led their life, how they kept, there is no records about it, only about the king's family, what are the battles he fought, how many wives he was having, or how much kingdoms he conquered. Only about that there is a information, but there is no information about the farmers, about the merchants, about the craftsmen. There is no information about it. What do dates mean? If somebody asks you the date, you will probably mention the day, month and year, 2000 and something. So here what we do, if somebody asks the date, what you will tell? You will tell the today's date. You will tell the year in which you are living, right? You will tell about the month in which day, in which month we are there. These years are counted from the date generally assigned to the birth of Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity. So 2000 means 2000 years of the birth of Christ. All dates before the birth of Christ are counted backwards and usually have the letters BC before Christ added on. So here Jesus Christ, when he was born 2000 years back, all those things after the birth of Jesus Christ, that 2000 years, and before to that it is considered as the before Christ. The dates are considered as 2000. BC means year before Christ, right? Using 2000 as our starting point, what we are doing, we are using the 2000 as our the one of our starting point in order to tell the era before Christ. Letters with the dates, we start with BC. We have seen stands for before Christ. We will sometimes find AD before dates. This stands for two Latin words, Anno Domini, meaning in the year of the Lord. So 2012 can be also written as AD 2012. Sometimes CE is used instead of AD and BCE instead of BC. The letter C stand for Common Era and BCE for Before Common Era. We use these terms because the Christian era is now used in most countries of the world. In India, we began using this form of dating from about 200 years ago. So this is how it is. So before the Christ and after the Christ, we are reading this, we are mentioning the dates. One of the most famous stories, disenfranchisement, comes from Egypt, a country in North Africa where there were kings and queens about 5000 years ago. In the 5000 years ago, in the disenfranchisement comes from Egypt. In the Egypt, which is a country in North Africa, we see that there are kings and queens about 5000 years ago. Rosetta is a town on the north coast of Egypt, and here an inscribed stone was found which contained inscription in three different languages and script, Greek and two forms of Egyptian. So we are seeing here there were Greek language and there were two forms of Egyptian languages also there on the stone. Scholars who could read Greek figured out names of kings and queens were enclosed in little frame called a cartouche. So there were the names of the kings were there and the names of the queens were there, which were enclosed in a little frame, and that frame was called as a cartouche. They then placed the Greek and Egyptian signs side by side. So what they did, they placed the Greek and Egyptian sign side by side and identified the sounds for which the Egyptian letters stood. So Egyptian letters stood, as you can see, a lion stood for L and a bird for A, like that. Once they knew what the letters stood for, they could read the other inscriptions as well. So here they started lion for photo or picture is there, means it stands for L, and if there is a bird picture, it stands for A. Like that they made it, and they started reading the words and letters which were written in the Greek and the Egyptian language. So children, please write the question and answers of this chapter and bring on Monday, submit me on Monday all the question and answers. Please write it neatly in the 200 single line page book and submit me on Monday. If you have any doubts, you can come to school and you can clarify the doubts. If you have any doubts, you can come to the school, you can meet me and you can clarify your doubts. Please children, if you have any doubts, come to me and get clarified all the doubts in the school hours. Okay, thank you.